Have you finished? Almost, Mama. Almost. Is that how you will succeed in life? Or what amount to anything if you continue like this? Look at you, pregnant with no husband. Already ruined your life. Control that mistake you call a child. Neighbors will hear his... To go. My baby cannot grow up like this. Keep him safe.
I want you to know that this story is created and owned by Africantales by Kike. Form of unauthorized use of this story is prohibited. Sit back and relax and enjoy the story. Please don't forget to support us. Subscribe to my channel.
The village of Omadara sits quietly beneath the wide African sky, houses resting like tired elders beneath the heat. Goats wander lazily. Palm trees sway without urgency. From a distance, it is a peaceful place. But peace, sometimes, is only what strangers see. Inside one of those houses lived 3 women and grief. Since their father's death, the walls had shifted, not physically, emotionally. Before he died, the house was noisy with balance. After he was buried, something invisible was buried with him. Fairness. Sinachi lifts the pestle again. Her gown is faded. It clings to her back with sweat. A thin gold chain rests on her neck, the only thing her father ever bought her from the city. Inside the house, Chinello sits on a wooden stool while their mother braids her hair gently. Turn your head small, the mother says softly. Chinello obeys. Her dress is bright yellow, clean, ironed, untouched by dust. Outside, the pestle strikes again, and the mother paused. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She is making noise like a stubborn goat, she mutters. Chinello said nothing. She never says much. Sinachi wipes sweat from her forehead and adjusts the waistband of her trousers. Fitted, slightly too bold for a village girl, according to many. That is one of her crimes. She dressed like a wayward girl. Sinachi dresses and walks with confidence. And confidence in Omadara is often mistaken as a rebellion when she is a girl. A neighbor passes by the compound and slowed her steps. She watched Sinachi pounding yam. First daughters of nowadays, the woman sighs, loud enough to be heard. Too forward. Sinachi heard her, but she ignored her and keeps pounding. Inside the house, the mother finished Chinello's hair and tilts her face proudly. My good daughter, she says. She stands and steps toward the doorway. Her shadow falls over Sinachi before her voice does. Have you finished? She asked sharply. Almost, Mama. Almost. Is that how you will succeed in life? Always almost. Sinachi lowered her eyes. The pestle rests in the mortar now. Her mother steps closer. You will not amount to anything if you continue like this. Look at you, pregnant with no husband. The words land like stones dropped into still water. No one argued. Not Sinachi, not Chinello, not even the wind. The mother turned and walked back inside. Sinachi exhales slowly, but she does not cry. Not here. Not anymore. Not where the village can see. From inside the house, Chinello's laughter rises again, and Sinachi looked toward the road leading out of Omadara. Just for a moment, as if measuring distance, as if wondering how far her feet can carry pain. The sun shifts slightly in the sky. Time moves, and in that small compound something fragile begins to crack. Not loudly, not suddenly, but slowly. Very slowly. Because wounds planted in childhood do not bleed immediately. Because in Umiwokoro, when a girl becomes pregnant without a husband, the story writes itself. No one asks how. They only ask with who. And even that is optional. Every night, Sinachi lies awake on her mat, staring at the ceiling. The house is silent then. That is when the questions come. But they are not the village's questions. They are her own. And she does not answer them. Because to answer would mean speaking. And speaking would mean explaining. And explaining would change everything. So she said nothing. Look at your sister, her mother would say. Look at her. Same upbringing but different destiny. A group of girls giggle as she passes the market. Sinachi carries her pregnancy the way she carries water from the stream. Balanced, silent, heavy. You will not amount to anything, she repeats one evening, her voice tired but still sharp. You have already ruined your life. Sinachi paused while sweeping the compound. For a second, just a second, her hand tightens around the broom. But she did not turn. She did not cry. And that restraint is the real mystery. Because guilt usually defends itself. Shame usually explains itself. But Sinachi? She absorbs everything. As though the punishment belongs to her. As though she has chosen it. The baby grows. The whispers grow louder. And the village watches, waiting for the father to appear. But he never does. And that absence becomes another accusation. Sinachi worked until her back aches. The division that began with words
Control
has
that
now
mistake you
taken
call a
physical
child.
form.
Neighbors will
One
hear his
night,
voice.
as thunder rolls in the distance and rain begins to fall softly on the zinc roof, Sinachi sits alone in the dark. Her hand rests gently over her stomach. For the first time, her eyes close tightly, not in shame, in memory, and whatever she remembers, she buries it again, deep, because some truths are too heavy for a house already filled with judgment. Her mother believes she has failed. Sinachi gave birth to her baby on a quiet night. The baby did not cry immediately. For one long second after he entered the world, the room was suspended between breath and fear. Then, a sharp wail split the air. Alive, strong, unapologetic. But instead of joy, the sound seemed to irritate the walls of the house. Her mother turned her face away. Cover him, she muttered. The neighbors will hear. As if the shame had just learned to make noise. Outside, rain tapped lightly against the zinc roof. The same roof that had listened to months of insults now listened to a newborn's cry. Sinachi held her son close. Her eyes were swollen from labor. Tears dropped from her eyes to the baby's face. No celebration followed his birth. No warm plates of pepper soup, delivered with smiles. Only whispers. He looks like who? Has anyone seen the father? Such beauty wasted. Days passed. Her body was still healing, but rest was a luxury not available to disgraced daughters. 3 days after childbirth, her mother placed a bucket beside her mat. Water does not fetch itself. Sinachi looked at the bucket, then at her sleeping baby, then back at the bucket. She stood, slowly, painfully, and that was how the new routine began. Morning, chores. Afternoon, chores. Night, child. Chinello no longer sat beside her, no longer shared quiet glances, no longer offered small kindnesses like passing water or adjusting the baby's wrapper. The baby cried often at night, not loudly, but persistently, and each time he cried, her mother would hiss from the other room. Control that mistake you called a child. That is what the child became in that house. Not grandson, not blessing, mistake. The village children began to sing as she passed. Back home, her mother's voice grew sharper. If your father were alive, she began one evening, then stopped, because even she knew she had used that weapon too many times. Still, she added softly, you have brought shame into this house. And yet, the baby's eyes were bright. He followed light with fascination. He gripped her finger with strength. Sometimes, when no one was watching, Sinachi allowed herself to smile at him. Only him, because he was the only one who did not look at her with accusation. Weeks turned into months. Her body regained strength. Her spirit grew quieter. that quietness began to change shape. It was no longer the quiet of shame. It was becoming the quiet of decision. But no one noticed. That night, as her son slept beside her, Sinachi sat awake long after the lantern burned low. Her mother's breathing echoed from the next room. The house was quiet. Sinachi looked down at her child. She traced the curve of his cheek, gently, and for the first time since the pregnancy began, her eyes filled, not with shame, with something else, resolve, because there's a limit to what the human spirit can endure before it begins to search for escape. And Sinachi was approaching hers. The village believed her story had ended. A fallen girl.
To go,
a
my baby
ruined
cannot grow up
future.
like this.
Appelle maintenant disgrâce. But what they did not understand was that pressure does not always break a person. Sometimes it prepares them to leave. Her son stirred slightly, then settled again, his tiny fingers curling against her wrapper. She looked at him, truly looked at him. His breathing was steady, innocent, unaware that the world had already labeled him. Mistake, disgrace, burden. A question formed in her chest. If she stayed, what would he grow up hearing? If she remained, would he learn to lower his head the way she had? She rose carefully and wrapped him securely to her chest.
Keep him safe.
She packed little, 2 wrappers, 1 spare blouse, the thin gold chain her father once gave her. Nothing else. Memories way too much for long journeys. Before stepping out, she paused at the doorway. The house was quiet now. Chinello breathing softly in the next room. For a moment, just a moment, she imagined staying back. Imagined another morning of sweeping. Another afternoon at the stream. Another evening of being called nothing. But then her son shifted in her arms, and that decided it. The night air was cool against her skin as she stepped onto the dusty road. No announcement, no farewell, only footsteps. The path out of Omuokoro was familiar. She had walked it many times to fetch firewood. But tonight it felt different. It felt like a border. She did not cry. Tears are for endings. This was a beginning. By dawn, she reached her father's sister's village. Her aunt opened the door in surprise. No questions at first, just concern. Sinachi placed the baby gently into her aunt's arms. Keep him safe, she said softly. That was all. Her aunt searched her face for explanation. Found none, because some truths were too heavy to speak. She kissed her son's forehead, inhaled his scent, memorized the warmth of him. Then she stepped back. If she turned around again, she might not leave. So she didn't. The road to the city stretched ahead, long, uncertain, unkind. But it did not know her story, and that was enough. With nothing but determination and the weight of silence behind her, Sinachi walked toward a future that had not yet judged her. That night, for the first time, she chose herself, and sometimes that is where destiny begins. Followed her. Loud buses roared past. Market women shouted over each other. Buildings stood taller than any palm tree she had ever seen. No one cared who she was. No one cared what the village had said. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like freedom. But freedom is not comfort. It is work. Sinachi found a job as a cleaner in a private hospital. Every morning before sunrise, she tied her hair back, wore her uniform, and wiped floors that reflected faces more important than hers. Doctors passed her without seeing her. Nurses gave instructions without looking at her. She preferred it that way, because invisibility is safer than judgment. But here is the question. Can someone who carries that much silence truly remain unseen? One afternoon, while mopping the corridor outside the emergency ward, she felt it. Astare. She ignored it, until a voice spoke. You missed a spot. Her heart jumped. She turned. A young doctor stood behind her, calm eyes, composed posture, no arrogance in his tone. She bent quickly and wiped the spot. "Thank you," she murmured. He did not leave. He watched her, not like the village men who stared with accusation, not like strangers who measured her beauty. This gaze was different, but different can be dangerous. From that day on, he noticed her, the way she worked without complaint, the way she avoided conversations, the way she flinched when anyone raised their voice. Why would a young woman carry fear inside her shoulders like that? And why did her eyes always look like they were remembering something? Days turned into weeks. He greeted her each morning. She responded politely, never more. One evening, rain poured heavily as staff rushed to leave early. Sinachi remained behind to finish cleaning. The hospital lights flickered. Footsteps approached again. "You don't talk much," the doctor said gently. She froze. Was this kindness, or the beginning of another mistake? She gave a small nod and tried to leave, but he spoke again. "What are you running from?" Her breath caught. Running? Was she running? Or surviving? And how much longer can a person outrun their past? The rain fell harder, and for the first time since leaving the village, Sinachi felt something shift. Not love, but attention. And attention can either heal you or expose you. The strongest people are often the ones hiding the heaviest secrets. He did not stop trying. Not forcefully, not desperately, patiently. He offered her tea during breaks. He asked about her family. He asked about her dreams. Dreams. She had buried those. One evening, after weeks of gentle persistence, he said something that cracked the surface. "I know you have been hurt." She stiffened. "How? What did he know?" "I don't need details," he continued, "but I can see it." And that is when fear turned into anger, because seeing her felt like intrusion. "I am fine," she replied sharply. But was she? Can someone truly be fine after carrying shame that never belonged to them? Days passed. She avoided him, until one night he found her crying, not loudly, just quietly in the storage room, and something broke. "I have a child," she whispered. The words dropped like stones. He did not react. He waited. Silence filled the space again. Then she continued. "It was not my choice. I was ambushed," she said, "on my way back from the stream." The world shifted. She had not been reckless. She had been robbed, and she carried the punishment alone. Why did she not tell her mother? Because how do you explain pain to someone who has already judged you guilty? Why did she stay silent? Because sometimes silence feels safer than disbelief. The doctor stepped back slowly, not from disgust, from heartbreak. "For her, you carried that alone?" he asked. She nodded, and for the first time, she allowed someone to see her tears. He did not leave. He did not withdraw. Instead, he asked her a different question. "What do you love?" No one had asked her that before. She hesitated, then softly,
I judged you.
"Fashion." He
Your
smiled.
dressing and thought I
"Then let's
understood
build
your
it."
heart.
Fashion school became
I was
her new
wrong to your
battleground.
sister.
She
I called you
struggled at
disgrace.
first.
I forgot you were my
Self-doubt does
child.
not disappear overnight. Other students came from wealth, from stability. She came from survival. But pain had trained her in endurance, and endurance became discipline. Thread by thread, sketch by sketch, she rebuilt herself. The very things her mother condemned now earned applause. She graduated with distinction, launched her own brand. Clients grew, confidence followed, and one evening, he asked her to marry him, not out of pity, but partnership. She said yes, not because she needed saving, but because she was no longer broken. But while she rises, back in the village, easily over Umuokoro when a black car rolled slowly into the dusty road. Children ran first, then women stepped out of their compounds. The car stopped in front of a house many believed had swallowed its own disgrace. The door opened. A polished shoe touched the ground. Then another. And then Sinachi stepped out. Not the thin, Silent girl who once carried water with lowered eyes. But a woman, poised, elegant, dressed in a tailored outfit
Control that
she
mistake you call
designed
a
herself.
child.
Her
Neighbors will
husband
hear his
stepped out
voice.
beside her.
Go, my baby
Her
cannot
children
grow up like
followed,
this.
3 of them, including the
Amount
first,
to anything
the
if you
one they
continue
once
like
called
this. Look at
Mistake.
you, pregnant with no
Silence
husband.
spread through the
Keep him
compound.
safe.
Not mocking silence. Stunned silence. Her mother stepped out slowly, as if unsure her eyes could be trusted. For a moment, they just stared at each other. 7 years of